So let's make a formal introduction for our listener. Good afternoon, Markus. My name is Claudio. I'm calling you from Washington, D.C., from the studio in Fairfax City. We are very humble, grateful that Markus Reuter accepted our invitation to a show. Markus, welcome to the show, man.
Welcome. Thank you.
No problem. So, Markus, with everything that is going on in the world with the pandemic and inability to go outside, some people want to take the vaccine, some people don't believe in the vaccine. You cannot tour like many musicians. How you doing? And how's your family, your sanity?
Yeah, good question. It's been such a long time that I don't even see it as one phase, right? There are several phases within what we now call the pandemic. At the beginning, like people were thinking that it wouldn't get to where it is a pandemic, but to me it was pretty obvious. Like even in January, I think it was January when I first heard about virus in China, and we were Stickman, my band Stickman, we were going on tour in China and Japan and Hong Kong, and so then I already knew, okay, there's going to be problems. The Chinese part was canceled right away, and we went over to Japan, and just like the day before the first concert in Japan, we heard, okay, tomorrow, which was a Friday, is going to be the only show you can play, because on Saturday they start the lockdown, right? And so at that point, I kind of like knew, okay, because I'm also, I don't know, I'm sort of like a realist, I would say. And once you realize that something like this is happening, and it's spreading out into the world, then there's no stopping. And this was clear to me from the very beginning. And I stayed a few more days in Tokyo and actually recorded a really beautiful album with Gary Husband there, because we had a few days before our flight went, right? So we went to a studio, recorded there. But anyway, so when I got to the airport, Narita Airport, which is a huge airport, and it was basically empty. And I wasn't shocked, because, as I said, I was very realistic. I got there, but it was still such a surprise to see that the Japanese people, they had already understood, and the lockdown was serious there. Then when I got to Germany, I can't remember. I think I flew over Helsinki. Can't remember now how the state in Helsinki was, but then I got back to Germany, and it was like nothing had happened. Like everybody was the same. And at that point, I knew, okay, so this is definitely going to spread. This is definitely already everywhere. And it turned out that was actually true. And you could see it. I mean, maybe I'm not a specialist, but I'm going to say it anyway. You could see that in the places where there were a lot of businessmen or large industries, you had the like the problems first, like in northern Italy, for example. Right, and so it was obvious to me that it was the traveling people that were bringing it around, and that for me also meant, like, I knew, okay, so I'm definitely going to stay home, and it was the same with Pat and Tony in the band, right? We decided, okay, so definitely no traveling, definitely no cruise, because they were still planning to do the cruise to the Edge at that time. And yeah, so that was the beginning. But like from the very beginning, I got home and I knew, okay, this is it, and I needed to do something else. So I started. Actually started a crowdfunding campaign, because the money that I would have earned on the Japanese tour, that was my money for the first 4 months of the year. So so then I did a crowdfunding. I started teaching a lot. I started producing a lot of music. For other people, I started producing a lot of music of myself. And then in the summer, I started doing online events with Zoom, which I call Living the Dream.
Yeah.
And then later in the year, I started a podcast. So I try to keep like busy in a time. Well, it sounds, I've not really been busy in this time, right? It may look on the outside to people like I'm busy, but it's just I'm also very efficient in doing things in a short period of time. And what made this whole experience so much more difficult but also more beautiful and amazing is that I had my girlfriend, we had our first child in October 2019. So, so I was at home and I'm still at home, and I experience her 24/7 growing up, changing from, every 5 minutes you can see something new. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's like, it's wonderful, literally. And but as you, I don't know if you're a father, but if like there is it's very hard, because it's a hard job to have children, right? So
Yeah.
so for me, because it's the first child, so I had no idea what that's like to have a child and to have the pandemic. What happens is that at some point you don't even know anymore. Okay, am I stressed because I have to look after the baby, or am I stressed because everybody is strange around me, or I can't see friends, or like it was very confusing, and it continues to be a little bit confusing.
Yeah. Well, hopefully now with people, taking medicine and people getting healthy, things will improve, and
Yeah.
people will go on tour, like you do, make a living by touring, right? And then me, I see, I live in the border with two states, with Washington, D.C. I live in Virginia, Washington, D.C. and Maryland. So every band come this way. So I on average, I see close to 30 shows a year. And of course, last 12 months, I have not seen anybody. Now it's start opening up. So it's September 1st, and all the venues are start opening, so I will be able to see a good music. But for me, I began listening to the music I was buying. I was buying so much music, so much vinyl, faster than I could consume. So the pandemic was in many ways great to me, because I developed the radios and I listened to my own music. I was buying stuff that I didn't have time to. And also, you stop. I was going, like many people, going so fast. And when the pandemic was why that is not important, that is not important. Like they say here in the United States, you stop down and slow down and try to smell the roses, and see what is important in life,
Yeah, to an extent, I benefited from that, because first of all, like most of my friends and fans are in the US, actually. So a lot of the people that are started to come to me for lessons or for some kind of interaction with me, let's say, they finally had time to do something.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people there that I wouldn't really expect that they were serious about doing things, but then it turns out they were actually very serious. All they needed was the time. And so I think the pandemic in some respect was very good for quite a few people. And like for us, the difficulty that started in December, like where in December, was that they closed the daycare places for children here. So, and since both my girlfriend and I, we sort of like, we have to work in order to earn money to pay for, and so that what happened was that basically I started caring for my daughter for half the day. So from the morning till 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And then I try to have some work, which sometimes goes through into the night. And so what happened was that the last 7 months, they were almost like all the days were the same, right? Like when the baby is at home, like all the days are the same. Now, and the weekend is the same as the week, and I have to say it was pretty hard. And it was only last week that we were able to take her back to the daycare place. That we were allowed to take her back there, and so now I have to get used to having time in the mornings.
That's right. Now you have nothing to do in the morning, so you need to keep yourself busy, So let's go back to the beginning. Were you born like in a musical family, Markus? When did you start taking piano lesson, guitar lesson? When that started?
Yeah. So my family is not particularly musical, but my mother was listening to the radio a lot in the 70s. I was born in 72.
Yeah, gotcha.
So the music that nowadays we call classic rock, I was very familiar with as a child, and we had a vinyl player, and I listened to the Beatles, and you know, very early on. I remember as a child, I you know, used my thumb as a microphone, and I was singing "Hey Jude," you know.
Know what you mean?
I still remember that. And then for me, it was maybe songs like, really like one of the first songs that I remember very well was Hotel California.
Yeah.
Because it has this feature of this cycling chord sequence, which I love. I still love this kind of compositional device of this, you know, this cycling stuff. And yeah, and then like, but my father didn't really listen to much music. And my father was a truck driver, actually, so he was away a lot. And so it was like in '82 that my mother and my uncle, they took me to a Mike Oldfield concert, and that was the beginning, really, of my love from, or where I knew that I wanted to explore music, let's say. But even before that, I had like the classic, how do you call it, like the classic children's education that you have in Germany, and then I used to try to play the recorder, and I had classes playing mandolin. So all that happened before I was 10 years old. And then at 10, after the concert, I think I asked my parents I wanted to have a keyboard instrument, and they bought me like a small Yamaha, small keys, and and that's when I kind of like fell in love with harmony and playing chords and, you know, progressions, and it was nice, and that was really the beginning. And then I had a friend, an Indian friend, like from India, and he had a classical guitar, so I played on his classical guitar, and I had my, like, it's a little bit crazy, but then I had piano lessons when I was 13, and when I was 15, I had my first classical guitar lesson. And then only 3 years later, when I was 18, I went to a Robert Fripp guitarcraft course.
My God, man.
Yeah. So a lot of things like happened in the first 18 to 20 years of my life. But, and this is important to me still, like when I look back, in the first 20 years of my life, I did not understand, or I did not understand that something like practicing or learning exists. In school, for some reason, like the school I went to was supposedly a good school, but the class I was in, the people I was in the classroom with, we were sort of like the workers' children. So we didn't really have the best teachers. You know, in the other classrooms were like doctors, children of doctors and lawyers and stuff like that. So, which I you know, back then I didn't understand that. I didn't really know. But so in school, like there was nobody who ever really taught me something. Like nobody who ever really asked me or said, Markus, like be motivated to try to learn. So like it was really 20 years of my life where I was simply just going on what I would call my talent, right? So anything I could understand without having a teacher, actually. And then Robert Fripp, when I was 18, he was the first time I actually met somebody who was a great teacher. And he then had a really immense impact on my life. And there on that guitarcraft course, I asked Robert about the Chapman stick, which I still play that kind of instrument, you know. And so it was a really, really important event in my life.
Before you met Robert, you know what who Kim Prince was? I mean, you were listening to some of the music, right? So
yeah, but just a few months before. Yeah. So I remember that my piano teacher, when I was 13 or 14, he mentioned King Crimson to me, and he actually made me a mixtape which had only 2 songs on it, but there was no King Crimson on it. There was, on one side was Heart of the Sunrise from the what's it called, live songs, and what is it called, the Yes album, live. The four records in one sleeve. What was, you know which one I mean? Yeah. Yes song. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that version, and on the other side of the tape was David Thorne, Cloud About Mercury, the first piece of that record. And so that was my introduction to sort of progressive music. And in that context, my teacher also mentioned mentioned King Crimson. And so then a few years later, I was in a record store in my hometown, and I saw they had just put out like I think it was a 4 CD box, which was the 20th anniversary of EG Records. So it was, I think it was Court of the Crimson King, Lark, Stanks and Aspic, and Discipline, plus the EG sampler in one box. And then what they did, because they, for some reason, I think that the box sets didn't sell, so they took the CDs out of the box, and you could buy them individually. And this may be a funny story for you. I actually bought in the Court of the Crimson King, and I took it home. I didn't like it, and I actually managed to return it. Which back, yes.
You cannot do that anymore.
No, you couldn't. It was, I don't know how I managed. I maybe invented some story. I don't know. I can't remember. But then a few weeks later, I bought the Discipline album, and that I liked a lot. And I heard the few notes of the Discipline album, and I knew, okay, so this is my family. This is sort of the music I have been looking for in my life. And so then just a few weeks later, I guess I saw an announcement for Robert Fripp and the League of Crafty Guitarists concert, which was in Bielefeld, Germany. And I asked actually the sister of a friend if she could drive me to the concert. And I think they drove me there. And at the end of the concert, there were like flyers on the tables for the course with Robert. So it was everything, like it was everything happened like in a very short time, and I didn't really know King Crimson that much. And I also didn't know Robert Fripp that much. So which was interesting. First of all, I was very young, but then also when I went to the course to meet Robert, which was in that summer. I think the concert was in April, and the course was in June or so. So what happened that like everybody was so. I don't know how to put it, but Robert is like that guru, even like in that situation with all the students, all the people that love his music, right? But for me, I was too young to understand. So for me, it was a little bit, I don't know. It was more like more friendly for me with him.
I got you. Are you still in touch with Robert Fripp, and he remember you or?
Yeah, well, I don't know if he remembers me, but I think he knows very well what I'm doing because I'm working with Pat and Tony, you know. So yeah. I think no, we have, you know, like it's one of the things I that is kind of like my character is I'm very humble in a way with friendships, right? So, or especially with Robert as a teacher. Because what he gave me, I took it very seriously, and I really worked hard. So when he gave me a lesson, I would only consider to go back when I really thought I would have mastered it. Yeah. And it really, in some cases, and this is not a joke. It's not a joke. It's 14 years, 20 years, where I say, okay, now I've gotten there. Now I've arrived there. At this point, what Robert asked me 20 years ago, now I have finally gotten there. But then what is interesting, because the experience when you're a practicing musician, right? The experience of actually cracking a nut, like cracking an exercise, mastering an exercise. Mastering is not a good word, but what happens is that you get more answers. But the answers create questions, and the questions then create exercises. So in a way, if you have a good teacher or a good instructor, sometimes it's enough just to push the first domino, and everything unfolds automatically. And that was the case for me with Robert's teaching, and I'm immensely grateful. And there, you know, like he did, you know, the digital soundscaping a lot. He started doing that in the early 90s, and I was a big fan of that. And I started kind of like trying to do the same, but then trying to find a different way to use it. And like it was just hugely influential on me, and I'm extremely grateful. And I've met him over the years. I've met him a few times, but the last time I really met him is I can't remember now, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
over 10 years, I think.
Yeah, you gotta. Will be, I would love, obviously, I would love to interview him, but I know it's difficult to get a hold of him. He doesn't do interviews and stuff like that. It needs to be something very special for him to say, okay, yeah, I will do it.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think even if it's something very special, he doesn't want to do it. I don't know. I don't think anybody should take it serious personally. It's not a personal thing that he doesn't want to talk to you, or it's
Anybody else.
It's yeah, he just doesn't want to do it. And yeah, it's like it's funny because I think if you are an artist who is sort of like connected very strongly with the creative energy, let's say, right? It also can make you, I believe, like very sensitive to stupid questions, for example, right? Like, and that some artists they go crazy if you ask them why, or like. So again, like if you are like great interviewers or even like great fans would probably be great partners to discuss things with Peter Gabriel or whatever, but it just I don't know. I can see that for me the interaction with the people that I meet on the road, I really miss it. So for me, the fact that I can talk with you and that somebody else can watch it and they can reconnect with me, I think that's wonderful, and that's why also I'm very open for people to write me, and but this is the interesting thing, it rarely happens. Like I very rarely get messages from new people. Like the people that usually write me, I know them for a long time already.
I got you. Yeah, I interviewed Robert Rich a couple of weeks ago, and I always ask at the end, who you think we recommend? Say Jan Body. I interviewed Jan Body, I don't know, about 6 months ago, and then yourself. And from King Crimson, I interview, what's his last name? Jaco, I forgot his last name.
ProjeKct.
Yeah, it's a difficult name to pronounce. Yeah, he's a very nice guy too. And of course, I try to kind of, in a nice way, to see he can put me in touch with Robert. And he says it's very difficult. Robert doesn't do interview. And but it is what it is, man. But I would love to, But I understand, right? You kind of, that's their life and their profession, and you don't want to invade their privacy, right? Plus, the people are very famous. I don't know, like you gotta respect when they say no, it's not, but what if you go back early in your life when you began playing, what equipment were you using with when you're on the early recording? Just a simple guitar and
I started recording stuff there are like several points in my life where when I was maybe around 16, I had a Tascam 4-track recorder, and I did experimental electronic ambient recordings. I had a Yamaha synthesizer, and I recorded like 4 tracks of stuff, also with like reversing the tape and like the usual stuff you can do with that kind of thing. So like one of my first recordings was an ambient piece that I remember, but then, like I said, I started very late. I started when I was 20. I got my first Chapman stick, and that was the moment when I realized, okay, Markus, now you need to finally kind of like be realistic, and you need to practice. You need to learn how to learn, because before that I had no idea how to learn. Like I said, everything was, I could just do it. I was talented enough to speak languages, to do mathematics and physics, and I could just do it somehow. But then with the instrument, I got it, and I tried to play and realized, oh, this is very difficult. So I need to dedicate my life. And so I had the Chapman stick, which was my first instrument that I really considered to be something that I was connected to, and So I had just some multi-effects boxes at the beginning, and just maybe one distortion pedal, something like that, and also like a really short delay, which was like 2.3 seconds or something. And with that, I obviously, when you know Fripp, like I started trying to do like the Frippatronics kind of style of stuff. So that was sort of like the beginning, and but it was not so much about the equipment, it was about the opportunities to play music that really had the big influence. And so the very first thing I did in Bielefeld, where I started studying psychology when I was 20, was a free improvising orchestra. And there were meetings in the university every Wednesday night. With a very, very nice, back then already quite old, like he was in his 60s, Gerd Lisken. And that was like the most amazing experience. Like he was like one from the real generation of free improvising, free jazz kind of people from the 60s. And he taught me so much. And for me, if you would ask me, Markus, which genre do you actually play? Really, like I come from that really free gestural use of the instrument, also like making all noises, knocking and like anything you could do with the instrument. So that was sort of like, if you're asking about the gear, right? Like in a way, that was the most important part. And then from there, it went through. Obviously, I started doing the Fripp style of soundscaping with 2 digital delay loops, and then I started getting more into sort of like more structured improvisation, so playing with scales and stuff. Even though I have I am sort of like educated as a composer as well. I had in high school, there was a teacher who was also very good, actually, who really helped me become a good composer. And so then at some point in the mid-90s, like these things came together. So I started becoming a better player and a better composer, and then these things came together. And for me, it was important to bring the composition into the improvisational act. So for me, when I played a concert, every piece was improvised. Maybe within a sound, like I had, like say I had one specific sound for the first piece, specific sound for the second piece. And so I prepared a little bit, but within the parameters of what I prepared, I was improvising. And so the gear, so the delay loops and the multi-effects pedal boards that gave me the sounds, they were kind of like very important for the compositional process. And
nowadays it's the opposite, right? We with the advancement of the evolution of musical technology, people having a fast computer at home, and you can do like your own studio at home, and it's that affecting. Now you have more technology, right? Before you were old school. Having more technology, it has affected your creative process. Do you think different now that you can? Computer redo things many times?
Well, it's. I think I was lucky because I was in the right generation. So for me, it was a continuous learning process. And for me, it was obvious it was good to start with recording on tape. And then also my very first band, we recorded on tape. And then I had a Sony DAT machine, which was my first professional recording device. And I did I did 4 tapes before I put out my first CD. And these 4 tapes, I recorded them on DAT, and then went to the copy place where they made like 100 copies or whatever, I can't remember. And then I remember when I bought like maybe my second PC or so, because like before the PC I had an Atari ST, which was a great computer. Then the PC was sort of like a wonky thing. But then with Windows, there was Cubase. I think it was Cubase, which was the first DAW I had on the computer. And at that point, it really didn't really work well in, I don't know, 96 or whenever it was. But then I could already see, okay, like I will have to get into this. And there were like maybe 5 years or so that I was still working with the DAT machine, recording stereo, like my band Centrozoon, which is with my friend Bernhard. We met once per week, and we recorded everything we ever played, right, in our rehearsals, and it was on that machine, and that was it was actually very good quality, you know. So, and the recordings are very usable even nowadays. And then it was, I think, in 2000 or 2001, it was with the program called Ableton Live, which is kind of like a new, maybe it was 2002 or 3, I can't even remember now, but almost 20 years ago. That was when I started getting into the modern production techniques, and I have grown with it ever since. And I, you know, like, these tools have become a part of my sound, a part of my approach. But for me, like, the old way of doing things is still, like, I would still, when I record an album, even with the laptop, I record it to stereo.
Yeah.
But because I have everything, like, I have many channels in you know, and I play live and I can mix live, but I don't record multi-tracks. I record stereo most of the time.
Yeah.
It's it's for me. There's something beautiful about capturing the performance and to commit, like, to make sure that the performance itself gets captured. And if you record to multi-track, it's very difficult to be exactly sure that you're getting the same mix that you had live. So that's why I really love to record the stereo, some of the output of the DAW.
I got you. I understood. And so at the time, you know, you finished what they call in German the gymnasium, and you went to university. You knew at the time, early in your life, when you were 20, that you didn't want to get a job or formal education. You wanted to be a musician, and you needed to talk to your parents and say, I want to give this a try, and music is important to me, or whatever. I want to give a.
Yeah, it was good because both my music teacher in high school and Robert Fripp, they both said to me, Markus, don't go to a conservatory, you know, don't study music. They both said that to me, and I took that to heart. I think they were very right in with their recommendation. And I've said this many times before to other people, but, like, Robert really said to me, Markus, if you are a professional musician, you are going to do it anyway. So you might as well learn something else and then make your music. And he was absolutely right. So I studied psychology. So I'm psychologist, and it was good for me. It was because I was so happy making music, right? I was practicing a lot. I was making a lot of music when I was studying. When I was studying at university. And so I was so happy with doing something that I wanted to do that the studies of psychology were easy for me, because it was very balanced.
Good balance, right? A good balance.
Yeah. So I got really lucky, and I had very good friends and a good partner, a good girl that I was living with, and we kind of supported each other. We did all the tests together, the psychological, the tests that we had to do to get our degrees, and so it was a good time, and very intense.
You remember your first paycheck, the first time you got paid to play in a coffee or in a small theater, or the first gig?
You know the first check, and I think I must have it somewhere. I was part of a stick compilation. Stick players. It was called Tapestry Volume 1. That was the stick compilation, and I got really for that. I did eventually get a check for, I don't know, for $1 something, an actual American check. It was the first time I saw a US American check, and so. But with live performances, it took a long time to get paid for live performances. Like maybe there was the occasional concert, because, like, I was only doing experimental music until 2011. I was only doing experimental music live. So, and as you can imagine, like with experimental music, you can be grateful that you can even play somewhere. And really the first money I really got for playing live was with Tony Levin and Pat Mastelotto as stickmen. And it was a South American tour. We started in the north of Argentina, and then went also to Chile, and Yeah, and it was a really nice experience, and that was like, and then at the end of the tour, Tony sent me money, so it was wonderful.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Tony's a very. I have not have the chance to interview him. I will try. I would like to interview him, but he's a very nice person. What I heard. Yeah, I saw
Very
him.
nice.
I saw him. Well, I have seen him with Kim Crimson in the past, but with Kim Crimson you cannot take picture. They don't like the stuff. And I saw him playing with his brother in a band. Levy brother, whatever the brother. I don't know.
Yeah, Seven Brothers. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a very nice person.
Yes, very, very nice. And for me, it was really. I'm still very grateful to be associated with him. Also to learn from him. You know, he doesn't consider himself a teacher at all. So like what I do, I just spend time with him, and I just by being with him, just by playing with him, I'm learning, and it's been a wonderful experience. And it's the 10-year anniversary of my first shows with Tony.
It happened already, or it's going to be?
No, it was March. In March was the 10-year anniversary. Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. Wow. Are you guys still wanna do? Well, Tony is busy with Peter Gabriel and King Crimson, and when he has with his brother, he as a musician, you do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Are you guys planning to do like a reunion, like a trio, a touring?
Yeah, of course. We will see each other in August. I will go to New York.
Yeah.
And we do the summer camp together, which is with Adrian Ballou, Pat, Tony, and me, as like the main guys. And it's called Three of a Perfect Pair Camp. And yes, and then like Stickman is going to play again. Like we have like 2 nights. There's the Thursday night is a concert, and on the Friday night is a public concert in a Bearsville Theater in Woodstock. And that's when we're going to play again. And then, oh, there you go. My light just went off.
The light went, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's plugged in. Let me just have a quick look. Sorry.
Sure.
I can turn the other lights on. No problem. Just give me a second.
Let me continue with the with the recording. And
so we're gonna have Stickman tours have been planned or like postponed since we stopped the touring last year, right? Which was beginning of March, and we had a few tours last year, and they all got postponed. So the tour, which was supposed to be in the US in April 2020, it's going to happen in 2022. And in Europe, we are hoping to play in this October. Oh. So there's a 3-week tour planned in October. But as you know, nothing is really clear. We don't know if it's going to happen.
But are the venues are open right now in Germany or no? Little by little.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm not quite sure what they are doing at the moment, but we had a big breakthrough here last week, Friday. So just a few days ago, the restaurants were allowed to open the outside areas. Yeah. And you don't have to have a test or anything. So now things have come back to normal. So if things continue at this rate and the numbers are not getting worse again, then I think there's a good chance that in the fall there's going to be the possibility to play a few shows.
Yeah, that would be great. Feel free to collaborate with the Touch Guitar Circle with Trey, forming King Crimson, and with teaching and supporter network for guitar players. Feel free to mention that. Yes, what is important to you, and so forth.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I never really wanted to be a performer. That was not my main interest. My main interest was composing, was creating new sound worlds, and so when I got the Chapman stick, and I already mentioned that I really wanted to learn to play it properly. That was sort of like the beginning of also what then became the Touch Guitar Circle, because back then there was nobody there who really had thought about the mechanics of playing that instrument. So I was one of the first to really start finding a systematic way to teach it. And it was already, and I think 95, there was a seminar in Belgium where I was teaching. And then in 96, 97, I had a group of students in Spain, actually. And it was interesting. It was like it was like, you know, the Spanish guys, they called it tapeadores. You know, that was the and it was great. It was the beginning of this touch guitar circle thing, which the name touch guitar circle came, you know, like I think it was 2005 or so already also 16 years now. And so I did I had these meetings at my home. Actually, I was living in Innsbruck, Austria at the time, and we had these regular meetings with 4 or 5 people. And we worked on systemizing the whole, all the exercises and stuff, you know. And Trey actually I invited him to Austria in 2012, I think it was, I can't remember exactly, you know. And it was great because like I got my first instrument, my first stick from him. Then he played the wah guitar, which I played for 10 years. And so he was I also met him in Seattle once in 98 or so, and he gave me some good insight into the playing also. And so when he basically came to Europe to first learn about my work. And it was great because he is such an open person and wonderful person that he sort of like, he immediately saw, okay, this is great. And because, you know, like the problem with when things are new, right? You have to have one person or a few people who are brave enough to say, okay, let's try like this. Because like if nobody says that, then everybody's just going to try. You know, and so what I did and my group of friends did, we said, okay, no, we have this idea. Let's try this idea and let's get more people involved to test if it works, right? So that was like the foundation. And then we got Trey in. And it was amazing. Like everything came together. And so at the moment, for example, I'm running a touch guitar circle course, which runs for the whole year. It's 49 weeks.
Wow. This
49 weeks. It's currently,
right?
Yeah, it's in the internet right now. Yeah, but before, you know, in the years before, I did 1 or 2 meetings per year, like one in Europe and one in the US. And yeah, Trey was sometimes part of that when he was available, you know, but we did some, Trey lives in Seattle, and when we did the course in Seattle, he was part of it there.
And then how many students do you have on a weekly basis if you have one?
Yeah, you know, it's difficult to give you an average, but there are around 80 people, I would say, that are working with me with a touch guitar on and off.
Yeah.
So, but you know, then sometimes like in the summer now it's less, right? There's, I mean, per week, when it's a good week, it can be, and it should actually be up to 15 hours, 15 lessons, right?
Yeah.
But currently it's less. It's about 8 or 9.
Okay. Still, it's very remarkable that people do that. So you've been a musician, a composer, a record producer, an instrument designer, teacher. Do you like to do a little bit of everything? I mean, or if you need to pick one, you prefer to be a recorder and a musician, or go on the road all the time, or you're happy to understand the whole process, right?
No, I'm happy. I'm happy to do a little bit of everything. First of all, because I'm such a curious person, and I want to know about the totality of the process, right? And but then, if you think about it, just from a practical standpoint, if you are a musician who is not making commercial music, there's no other way than to do many things in parallel. Like there's, you know, because and this is something that has become very tiring, especially in the pandemic for me. Like every single day, to fight for a new job, or to fight for somebody to book a lesson, and it has become really difficult for me to think that way, because also, like, I'm not 25 anymore. I'm also not 38. I'm 48, right? So
Yeah.
so I would wish